Another episode of Best MMA Picks. Excuse me. I'm your host, JD, and we have a big card slated for this weekend. Um, Nate Diaz versus Conor McGregor 2, taking place in Las Vegas, Nevada. We've got, well, I wouldn't say it's a stacked card. Well, we've got a pretty stacked main card. We've got some undercard fights that are pretty good. I'm only going to go over the main card predictions. I want to get these out to you guys a little early. That way you guys can start thinking about what you're going to put money on. And, just give you my brief analysis and give you some of my gut picks or leans on some of the prelims. So I guess we'll just get right down to business here. I haven't looked at a whole lot of footage on any of these fights, to be honest. So, these are all coming off of what I've seen in the past and what I can remember. So just kind of keep that in mind. I do look at, anytime I bet on something, I always look at footage on it. I always look at tape, do a tape study or film study. So keep that in mind when you're, viewing my video here. Okay. So we'll start from the bottom. We'll go all the way to the top. First fight, Tim Dirty Bird Means versus Shawn Strickland. Both of these guys are very talented mixed martial artists. Tim Means tends to be a guy who takes a little bit more risk. I would say he's a pretty durable fighter. Shawn Strickland's also a very durable fighter. He can take some punishment, as we've seen in some of his previous bouts, but he tends to actually be the type of fighter that actually, he's a smart fighter. He's got a high fight IQ. He tends to try to minimize the amount of damage that he takes, while at the same time landing shots, picking his shots. He's a technical striker. He's got good boxing, decent head movement, good footwork. Has a tendency of just being real technical, keeping in a defensive posture. Not letting his guard down, which is really good. He protects his chin well. Tends to kind of, when he starts to get backed up against the cage, he'll circle away. He's a smart fighter. So you have to respect him for that. I've bet against him several times, and I've lost money against him. And he just kind of seems to continuously surprise me with the way that he wins these fights, because a lot of times they're not super convincing victories. His last one, I believe he's coming off a TKO victory that was pretty convincing. Just kind of showing that he's really kind of coming to his own, and he's getting some actual power in those hands. He's been training, to knock guys out, which before he was just kind of a decision machine where he would just kind of like outstrike guys, outpoint them, and get the nod from the judges. Well, a lot of fighters are kind of going the opposite direction there. They are actually, he's coming off a split decision win on Tom Breese. He actually finished Alex Garcia the previous fight. So previous to that, he pretty much is all decisions. So, I think he's starting to, he's getting a little more power in his hands. He's gotten some good training. I'm sure he's had some good camps. I haven't looked in to see exactly where he was for this camp, or if he even had a, full camp or not. But he's a good fighter. And I think he's got the advantage here. I think he's got a better record. He's fought some pretty tough guys. Alex Garcia is no joke. He's a tri-star MMA fighter. Firas Zahabi's got excellent strategy. So Shawn Strickland came in with his own game plan, beat Alex Garcia no problem. Came in against Tom Breese, who's an excellent striker, beat him. And so who's he going to lose to? He's 18-1. This kid could get a title shot here in the near future, but I think Tim Means is just kind of another means to a title shot. He's going to probably run through Tim Means. I wouldn't say he's going to run through him, but I could see a unanimous decision victory here for Shawn Strickland, if not a finish. I don't foresee him finishing Tim Means. However, Tim Means is getting older, and I question the durability there a little bit. He has had some health problems in the past. He's got good cardio and good heart. But he's 32 years of age, so he's getting up there. He's got, he's not super old, but he's got some mileage on him. Um, he knocked out John Howard in his last fight, which was the performance of the night. He lost in his fight against Matt Brown. He got submitted. So other than that, he's beaten some decent guys. Diego Lima, George Sullivan, who are they're not slouches by any means. So he's a talented mixed martial artist who he was on a roll for a while. He kind of got derailed there for a minute by Matt Brown, but now he's kind of coming back. And we could see him put up a pretty good fight against Strickland. So can't count him out. But I'm going with Strickland here to defeat Means by unanimous decision. Next fight, we have the ace, Hyun-Gyu Lim from South Korea versus Mike Perry. And in all honesty, like I actually looked at some film of Mike Perry because I'm not familiar with the guy at all. I know nothing about this guy. He's coming into the UFC 6-0, and he's got 100% TKO KO victories. Honestly, from what I saw from this guy, yeah, he finishes guys, but they're not really they're not UFC caliber opponents by any means. The last fight that I saw was against like a Frank Colville, I think was, or I'm probably not pronouncing the right name, but he's a lower tier fighter, not UFC caliber. He's kind of struggled against me. He got hit a couple times with some good jabs. He got clipped a few times. He got clipped one good time in the jaw where he kind of staggered back. So, it looked like he was kind of almost having a little bit of trouble with the guy. And then like I think late in the second round, he ends up knocking the guy out. But, before that happened, before he caught his opponent, he really didn't look that good. In my opinion, he doesn't throw combinations. He throws single jabs, throws, he doesn't throw combos at all. He doesn't, single leg kicks, single, body kicks. He doesn't mix it up at all with his punches. It's all just kind of one dimensional, which you can't bring that into the UFC and expect to win. I mean, you can get a lucky, power punch and knock a guy out, hit him right, but against a guy like Hyun-Gyu Lim, who has had UFC experience before, he throws at a very high rate. He's got good takedown defense. I don't see this guy having success. I see the ace here, and I see the ace outstriking him and having more power and having the better striking. Now, somebody might argue with me there, but I would say that this guy, the Korean guy is definitely, he's fought guys in the UFC before. He saw Tarek Safadine, Neil Magny, who he lost to both of them. But before that, he fought Takanori Sato and Pascal Cross and Marcelo Gomares. And those guys aren't really, high-level UFC competitors, but, they're in the UFC for a reason. They're decent fighters. So this guy's got way more experience, in my opinion, at the professional level. And I'm going with Hyun-Gyu Lim to defeat, and be the gatekeeper here to defeat Mike, forget his last name, tired, apologize. Mike Perry, Mike Perry. Hyun-Gyu Lim to defeat Mike Perry. I'm going to go by TKO. Moving on to the next fight, Rick's The Horror Story versus Donald Cowboy Cerrone. I'm actually really excited for this fight. This is a great fight. Rick Story had a little bit of ring rust, but he really did actually look halfway decent coming back from such a long layoff in his last fight. I think he can do better. It seemed like his cardio was up to par, though. Excuse me. Oh, man. Donald Cowboy Cerrone has just been on a tear. Now, there's going to be a sizable size advantage here for Rick Story. He's a big dude. He cuts weight. He cuts a lot of weight. He's a big welterweight. Okay. And I believe that's what what these guys are fighting at. Donald Cowboy Cerrone moved up in weight. And that might actually be one of the best decisions for him because he still has all his speed, and he's got a little bit more weight on him. And I think that's helped his chin. He's got a lot of power still, and just wicked kickboxing. And it gives these guys, these bigger fighters, problems. These bigger guys have power, but nothing that Donald Cowboy Cerrone hasn't seen before. I mean, he's gotten hit by Melvin Gillard and wicked power punchers that can knock guys out and can knock light heavyweight and heavyweight guys out. He's been hit by that before, and so and definitely Rick Story definitely has that kind of power for welterweight, but there's a huge speed advantage here for Cowboy. This one's a tough one for me. I really like Rick Story. He's a kind of the hometown hero, and for me, he's Washington State kid. He's from Vancouver. And every time that I've gone against my hometown boys, I always lose money. Michael Chiesa, to name one, and Juliana Pena. I had her in the beginning, and everybody else had Alpha Cat. So but I'm gonna have to go against the hometown guy again. I got to go with what I think is the smarter pick, and I think the smarter pick here is Donald Cowboy Cerrone. I think he's going to get the job done. I don't think it's going to be to the degree, though, that the odds makers have suggested, which, I'd probably put Donald Cowboy Cerrone at a -135, a slight favorite. Rick Story, he's a tough dude. I think people are kind of counting him out here a little bit. The odds makers definitely giving him some respect here, but that's a kind of a suspicious line to me, just because of the fact that I think that a lot of these odds makers are not sure how that size is going to affect Cowboy. And Rick Story is notorious for going to the body, wearing guys down, and just hitting them with some hard body shots that really wear you down. And that's one thing about Donald Cerrone. When he gets hit in the chest or in the ribs, it really tends to kind of break him, rather quickly. And we saw that with Nate Diaz when he lost to Nate Diaz. We also saw that when he got hit with a wicked, body kick from Anthony Pettis and got TKO'd standing. So, we've seen that before with Donald Cerrone, but Donald Cerrone continues to surprise people, and he will continue to win fights. So I'm going here with Donald Cowboy Cerrone to defeat Rick the Horror Story, and I think it's going to be a pretty close fight, to be honest. I think it could probably go to decision, but I'll give the nod to Donald Cerrone because of his speed advantage, and I don't think he's going to let up at all in the striking. I think he's going to have a really significant speed advantage here that's going to really play a role for him here to get more strikes. He's going to land more, and he's going to absorb less. He's going to absorb less than Rick Story because of his speed advantage. So that's my prediction for that one. Next fight, we have Anthony Rumble Johnson, the co-main event. Anthony Rumble Johnson versus Glover Teixeira from Brazil. Both these guys are elite mixed martial artists, and this is a fight that's going to have title implications to it. It's probably going to, whoever the winner is here is going to probably get Daniel Cormier for a title shot. And my prediction here, Glover is no joke. He's almost coming in at a 2-1 dog, and you're not going to get Glover at a 2-1 dog very often. Anthony Johnson, he's finishing guys within a round. And he's scary fighter. I thought maybe he would his power would wane a little bit after the whole US ADA, regulations and testing, random tests. No, that's not the case here. Anthony Johnson still's got all that power, and he's packing a punch and he's knocking guys out still. So I don't see there being anything different here, honestly, with the way that he's streaking. Glover's a really hard guy to put away. He can take a lot of damage. We saw that with John Jones when he fought John Jones. Jones hit him with some wicked elbows and some really nasty uppercuts and strikes, lots of combos. And Glover took everything that he dished out. He couldn't finish Glover. It was one of those things where Glover just was not going to go down, and he didn't give up. He brought the fight to Jon Jones. He hit him with some nasty shots. But I think that the power here, the power of Anthony Johnson's at a different level than any other mixed martial artist that I know of in the light heavyweight division, honestly. Nobody has that power that Anthony Johnson has. Glover went 5 rounds with Jon Jones. He got outstruck, twice the amount, but he hung in there. He hung in there with, with Jon. So he's a tough dude. He's getting older though, and the age plays a factor, as we know, especially when we're calculating odds and whatnot. And I think the age factor, the cardio factor, is what's causing the odds makers to not give Glover, that benefit of the doubt, or making him closer to a favorite. But for this fight, I'm going with Anthony Rumble Johnson. I think he's going to get done in the first. Well, I don't think he's going to get done in the first round. I could see it being late in the second round, either that or just a decision. But if Glover can get him down to the ground, which I don't think he's going to be able to do, but if Glover can mix in some strikes and then shoot for a takedown and get Johnson down, I think Glover has a shot at submitting Johnson. So, Glover's got some really good jiu-jitsu and some really good wrestling. And if it does go to the ground, I could see there being something funny happening there. I could see there being an upset, but that's not likely to happen. We've just seen Anthony Johnson destroy guys, and I don't see there being anything different here. So yeah, I'm going with Anthony Johnson to defeat Glover Teixeira. I'm going to go by a TKO or KO. Well, most likely TKO. And the last fight, the fight that we've all been waiting for to finish this summer off, Nate Diaz versus the notorious Conor McGregor. Conor McGregor coming back for his rematch against Nate Diaz to redeem himself and to take back his dignity and his pride. This is interesting. The odds makers have this at a pick 'em. Okay. And if I remember correctly, Conor was like a 4-1 favorite the first time. Okay. That's what the odds makers had him at. But that was when he had his whole invulnerable, pseudo invulnerable persona that nobody could beat Conor. Now, all of a sudden, Conor's a vulnerable character. He's this fighter that, he's been beat now. Like, he got choked out by, I don't know, of all people, Nate Diaz, who, in my opinion, Nate Diaz is one of the most underrated fighters. Both of the Diaz brothers are two of the most underrated fighters in the entire UFC. They don't get any love or credit. I mean, they get love, but they don't get any credit from, UFC or Dana or any of the major medias. Now Nate Diaz is finally getting some of that credit. He's finally seeing some of the rewards of his career, and I'm happy for the guy. And something tells me here that Conor's going to come back, and he's going to definitely bring the fight to Diaz. And the only way that I see Conor winning this fight, honestly, because if we're to be honest with ourselves, the only way Conor could win this fight is by KOing or TKOing Nate. He's not going to submit Nate, can guarantee that. And he's definitely not going to decision Nate. The longer that this fight goes, the more that it favors Nate. Nate has an unlimited cardio tank, and him and his brother are unlike any fighters that I've ever seen. They just keep throwing pitter-patter shots to the body and just that Stockton slap that just never quits. And Nate Diaz is definitely, he's got that cardio. Huge cardio advantage here. Now, Conor, a lot of people criticize him for getting tired or gassing. I don't think that Conor was gassing. I think he's frustrated. And Firas Zahabi definitely goes over that in one of his breakdowns. You can check out his channel at the TriStar Gym channel. He breaks down this fight, and I watched that breakdown, and it was definitely a good breakdown video. And he mentions that Conor is definitely not. He doesn't have a cardio problem. He's been in deep water before, and the main thing with Conor was he got hit. He's not used to getting hit. He's used to being the one who's the bully. And as soon as he got that bully back, from Nate Diaz, it was like he got frustrated, and it broke him mentally. The first time that we've seen Conor McGregor actually get mentally, frustrated and for things not to go his way. Now, this next time, I think that Conor's definitely not underestimating Nate. But Nate didn't have a full camp last time. Both guys are going to have, full camps. It's going to be a great fight. Really looking forward to it. And honestly, if I'm to go with my gut here, I would have to pick Conor to get, for promotional reasons, for this to go into a trilogy. But it would just be embarrassing for Conor to lose again. And I don't think he would I don't know that he would take this fight if he knew that there's a high likelihood of him losing. And so, that whole side of things makes me want to take Conor as a pick. But honestly, my mind's telling me, and, Nate Diaz has got better jiu-jitsu. Okay. He's got better transitions. He's more slick off his back versus Conor. Okay. Conor's got some decent ground and pound and some, good jiu-jitsu from the top. But Nate Diaz can defeat anybody on the ground from any position. Okay. He's a Gracie black belt. It's a huge difference there. Okay. Huge difference. Now, Conor, can't discredit him at all there. He's got good jiu-jitsu. He's a black belt, but it's not under the same tutelage that Nate Diaz, has. The other thing, the boxing. I think both these guys are phenomenal boxers. I think Conor's got a little bit more power, but Nate Diaz has also got some power too. You can't, his boxing's gotten even better than what it was before. And I think he has worked a lot on power versus, the pitter patter strikes that he and his brother like to, pop the jab, and then you come over with an overhand or a hook or whatever. But they both like to throw at that high volume, and Conor, he's got to keep up with that volume if he wants to win by decision. I just don't see Conor being able to keep up with that volume. Okay. Now he could rock Nate a couple of times and get him pretty bloody and knock him down a few times, and that would get him a victory by decision. But I don't see that happening. I see Conor still having trouble with Nate. Nate's, both these guys are going to bring an awesome fight for the fans. And I think since it's a non-title fight, I wouldn't be surprised if Conor, lost. Oh boy, this one's a tough one for me to pick, but I'm going to go with Nate Diaz. I'm going to go with, my mind here, which has been wrong a lot of times, and everybody else's mind has been wrong too. I'm going with Nate Diaz to defeat Conor McGregor. I'm going to go by a decision. I don't know that it'll be unanimous, but who knows? We could see a unanimous decision. That would just be embarrassing for Conor. I'm for sure thinking that he would probably move down to either lightweight or, lightweight or featherweight, back to featherweight. So, yep, I'm going with Nate Diaz here. I think he's going to defeat Conor by decision, and pretty excited for the fight. I'll give my gut picks real quick. Don't want to take too much time. Alberto Uda versus Marvin Vettori. I'm going with Uda to defeat Vettori, and I'm going to go by TKO. Got Colby Covington versus Max Griffin. I'm going with Colby Covington to defeat Max Griffin. I'm going to go by TKO. We've got Neil Magny versus Lawrence Larkin. This one's a tough one. Both these guys are both on streaks. Got to go with Neil Magny here, though. I think, it's a tough one, man. I think Neil Magny's got that length, and he's just a really smart fighter. Really, really smart. Not to take anything away from Lawrence Larkin. He's also a very high IQ fighter, but I think Neil Magny's just got that special something that's going to, he just keeps surprising people, and I think he's going to continue to move forward. So I'm going with Neil Magny here to defeat Lawrence Larkin by split decision. Next one, we've got Ronda Marcos and Courtney Casey. Going with, this one's kind of a tough one. I'm going to go with Courtney Casey to defeat Randa Marcos. I'm going to go by decision. Artem Lubov versus Chris Avila. And I don't like either of these guys. I'm going to go with Artem Lubov to defeat Chris Avila. I think he's going to finally get a TKO. I'm going with TKO here. Got Raquel Pennington versus Elizabeth Phillips, another hometown girl from Spokane. And I'm going with Rocky Pennington to defeat Elizabeth Phillips here. I think Elizabeth Phillips is a good fighter, but I think Rocky has just gotten too good, and she's just an overall one of the most improved mixed martial artists this year and last year. I think she's going to finish Elizabeth Phillips. I wouldn't be surprised. TKO victory for Raquel Pennington. And the last fight, the main event for the prelims, Cody No-Love Garbrandt versus Takeya Mizugaki. Takeya Mizugaki has definitely gotten older. His chin's taken a toll. He's taken a lot of damage over the years. We saw him get finished by Dominic Cruz, and I see the same thing happening here. I see a statement win here for Cody Garbrandt, and then him calling out Cruz for a title shot. Whether or not that happens, I don't know. But I definitely think this kid is going to get a title shot eventually, and it maybe within 1 or 2 fights. So I'm going with Cody Garbrandt to defeat Takeya Mizugaki, and I think he's going to get it done by KO TKO. And that about wraps it up, guys. If you don't have a good sports book, good one that I recommend is 5dimes.us, and you can place all your bets on that site. They have prop bets, live bets. They have pretty much all the lines that other books don't have for MMA. So that's the reason why I recommend it. I don't like the way that they handle withdrawals. I think it's a shitty system. I think they take forever. One of the reasons why I don't like to use them a lot of times, but they definitely, if you can get past that and you can wait a little bit to get your money, they're one of the better books. So check them out. Sign up for an account so that way you're not missing out on any of these bets. And, check out our portal page. The link is below in the description. It's bestmmapicks.com. I think it's /link-portal. But you can just click on the link in our description. It'll take you right there. It's got everything on there that you need to get started betting MMA and some resources and some guides and stuff. It also has a link to our Facebook group, which we also carry on lots of discussions in. Have about 200 or 300 people in the group. And then there's also a Betting Sharks group that you can get a private invite to. If you're posting good picks in my group, you'll probably get the attention of Mitch, who's the administrator. You can get in our secret group, which is a kind of the elite betting group. So anyway, make sure you subscribe below. Follow us on Twitter where we have all our commentary during the fights. We appreciate you guys supporting us. Give us a thumbs up, please. It really helps our channel. We're some big stuff's happening here. Been very busy with some projects. We may be opening a sponsor store. And if that's the case, that'll hopefully free up some income so that I can cut back on my normal day job and start really pumping out some good picks and putting some really good analysis into these fights for you guys. So check out our poll. Make sure you drop your opinion on what you think would be a good idea for a storefront for like a sister store for this channel. And once again, appreciate all the support, guys. Best of luck to everybody who is going to be betting this weekend. And everybody this next weekend. I kept saying this weekend. It's next weekend, actually. So jumping the gun there. Everybody have a great week. Have a safe weekend. And then next week, enjoy the rest of your week. Beautiful weather out there. It's about 90 degrees today. So peace out, everybody. JD out. Leave your comments. Give me your picks. Who you think is going to win. Leave those comments in the description or in the comment section below. And everybody have a good night.